When modern eyes look upon the bust of Janus, they often see a mythological curiosity, a two-faced contradiction. But the Romans did not see a monster. They saw a psychological necessity. They understood that every beginning carries the weight of an ending. Janus is unique among the major Roman deities in that he has no Greek counterpart. There is no Zeus to his Jupiter, no Ares to his Mars. This suggests that Janus was a solution to a uniquely Roman problem, the anxiety of the threshold. He is the god of the annua, the door. He presides over the precise moment of transition, the first hour of the day, the first day of the month, the first month of the year. But to view him merely as a calendar marker is to miss the philosophical utility he offers. For the student of Stoicism, Janus is not a deity to be worshipped, but a model for the mind. He represents the perfect orientation of the human soul, aware of the past, prepared for the future, but immovable in the doorway of the present. Today, we examine the anatomy of transition. The most striking feature of Janus is his duality. One face looks backward, the other forward. To the uninitiated, this looks like distraction. How can one focus if the gaze is split? However, in the context of moral formation, this dual gaze is essential. The face looking backward represents the Stoic practice of honest assessment. It is the refusal to hide from what has occurred. When Marcus Aurelius opens his meditations, he looks backward. He lists his debts, his teachers, his family. He does not look back with regret, nor with nostalgia. He looks back to understand the sediment of his own character. Character is sedimentary. It is built layer by layer from the choices we made yesterday and the day before. The backward face of Janus acknowledges this accumulation. It asks, what habits have I forged? What chains have I unwittingly crafted? The forward-facing face is not prophetic. It does not predict the future. It prepares for it. This is the embodiment of premeditatio malorum, the premeditation of evils. The Stoic does not step through the door, blindly hoping for the best. He steps through having already visualized the worst. Seneca warned us that what catches us by surprise hurts us double. The forward face of Janus strips the future of its power to surprise. It sees the possibility of betrayal, of loss, of difficulty, and accepts them before they happen. There is no metaphysics here, only realism. By looking clearly at what was and starkly at what could be, the central consciousness, the mind itself, is freed from anxiety. This is the paradox of Janus. By looking everywhere, he secures the stability of the here and now. In Roman architecture, the threshold was sacred. To stumble while crossing it was considered a disastrous omen. Why? Because the transition requires attention. This is the core of the Janus mythos that applies directly to our modern lives. We live in an era of seamless, mindless transition. We drift from waking to scrolling, from one task to another, from silence to noise, without ever acknowledging the crossing. We stumble over every threshold. The Stoic concept of prosociatention, or mindfulness, is the antidote. It is the act of pausing at the door. Epictetus taught that our capacity for choice, our prohairesis, is the only thing truly our own. The threshold is where that choice lives. It is the razor's edge between the impression and the ascent. Imagine every action as a doorway. Before you speak in anger, there is a doorway. Before you indulge in a vice, there is a doorway. Janus stands there. To emulate him is to widen that gap, to pause in that liminal space and ask, is this consistent with the character I wish to inhabit? If you rush through the door, you are a slave to momentum. If you pause, you become the master of the entry. Corruption begins internally long before it becomes visible externally. It begins when we stop guarding the doors of our own minds. The Temple of Janus in the Roman Forum possessed a ritual function that serves as a profound metaphor for internal peace. Its gates were left open during times of war and closed only during times of peace. History tells us that for centuries, the gates rarely closed. Rome was perpetually at war. Consider the state of your own mind. Are the gates open or closed? For most, the gates are flung wide. The war is constant. We are at war with our circumstances, at war with the opinions of others, at war with our own fate. We let every external impression march into the sanctuary of our thoughts, muddying the floor and disturbing the peace. The Stoic goal is apatheia, not an absence of feeling, but an absence of enslavement to passion. It is the closing of the gates. Marcus Aurelius frequently described the mind as a citadel. If the gates are open, the enemy fear, desire, anxiety can enter at will. To close the gates of Janus is to declare that the war against fortune is over. You have accepted terms. You have accepted that you cannot control the world, only your reasoned choice. When you stop fighting reality, you can finally close the doors. You can find the stillness that the Romans so rarely found. This is not a retreat from the world. It is the establishment of a fortress within it. From this position of security, you can engage with the world more effectively, not as a combatant, but as a steward. How then do we apply the lesson of Janus? We must become auditors of our own transitions. We naturally respect the big transitions: birth, marriage, death. But character is formed in the micro-transitions, the transition from work to rest, the transition from solitude to social connection. Try this practice. Treat every doorway you walk through today as a physical trigger for mindfulness. As you grasp the handle, look back. Have I finished the previous task well? Look forward. What virtue does this next room require of me? Does the kitchen require patience? Does the office require courage? Does the bedroom require gentleness? By invoking this pause, you cease to be a passive victim of your schedule. You become a king or queen of your own trajectory. You stop stumbling. In a modern context, this insight is urgent. We are drowning in new beginnings, new years, new jobs, new trends, yet nothing changes. Why? Because we carry the old self through the new door. We have not looked back to learn, nor forward to prepare. We have simply moved. The ancient Romans prayed to Janus before any other god, even Jupiter. They understood that if the beginning is flawed, the end cannot be true. If we were to imitate them, we might begin our days differently, not with a rush of anxiety, but with a pause at the threshold of consciousness. Janus teaches us that we are always standing in the doorway. The past is fixed. It is a lesson. The future is indifferent. It is a challenge. But the doorway, this present moment of decision, is yours. Your task is not to control what lies on either side of the wall. Your task is to stand in the frame with dignity, to be the guardian of your own passage. Guard the door.